Something is awakening inside of Black women, a quiet but undeniable knowing that we're meant for more than survival, more than sacrifice, more than endurance, more than carrying everyone else's expectations while putting our own dreams on hold. A realization that the life we've been taught to accept may not be the life we're meant to live, and that there may be more freedom, more peace, more joy, and more possibility available to us than we've ever imagined. Because once you realize you have options, everything changes.
It's okay to step out on your own and make moves even when you are your only cheerleader.
Close your eyes and imagine living a life you love, unapologetic and unbothered, free from daily microaggressions from Karens and Kens, free from the fear of police brutality and systemic racism. Wouldn't that feel amazing? Now open your eyes. What if I told you that it's possible? Hear inspiring stories and get the actual blueprints from brothers and sisters of the diaspora who are living out their wildest dreams abroad. You've heard the term, now be inspired by the movement. I'm Krishan Wright, and this is Blaxit Global. I am so excited for this episode of the Blaxit Global podcast because it's a reunion of sorts. I am with one of our Blaxit Global Passport alum, Ulonda Harris, who is joining us from Zaragoza, Spain. Welcome to the podcast, Ulonda.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're here. You have a wonderfully rich story that I'm excited for you to share with our audience. I know you originally hail from Houston, Texas, and so where you are now in the world is very far from Houston, Texas. So I always love to start with people's origin story and would love for you to share with our audience yours.
So hello, my name is Ulonda and I am locating cozy, and I moved to Spain in April of 2024, and I never saw that coming. I never in a million years dreamed of moving to Spain, even though my youngest daughter moved here in 2016, and I had visited her and, well, her now husband several times, but it still didn't dawn on me that I could actually move here and, stay for longer than the allotted 90 days tourist visa. So I spoke it into existence one time when visiting in 2023 and just said, I would love to move here. I just felt a certain peace, especially being in Madrid. And when I spoke it into existence, somebody was listening. God was listening. God was like, okay, I'm going to give you a chance. And there was a young lady that heard me and said, I think you should talk to my attorney just to see what the options are. So I met up with my wonderful Spain attorney, Carlos, and he gave us some insight. Yes, he gave us some wonderful insight and options. And then I had to go back to the States for a year to get all my documentation and everything together that would allow me to apply for a 5-year visa. And I actually submitted for the 5-year visa when I came back to visit my daughter in Spain, and I've been here ever since.
I love how you hadn't really thought about it, but then you spoke those words into existence and the universe responded. I am a firm believer in that. Say the things that you want out loud. The energy you put behind it is important. Kind of paint a picture a little bit about your life in the States before you made the leap.
Years before, I want to say probably like maybe 8 years before, I had started hearing about these digital nomads and people working remote. And I remember at that time, I was like, oh, wow, I would love to be able to work remote. How could I be a digital nomad? I'm not an engineer. I'm not an IT specialist. But I remember saying it and just hearing little bits and pieces of it. And I didn't know at the time because I did go to college later in life. I was in my 40s when I went to college. And so I just did not know that that was even a possibility. I thought that because I work in accounting, so I didn't think that that was possible. But I didn't know that I was actually taking steps that was going to put me in a position to be working for a company completely remote. So when I first came to Spain to visit my daughter in 2018, 6 months later, I actually started working for a company where they actually wanted me to be the face of their Houston office. And eventually I just said to them, why am I coming into the office? I'm not seeing anybody at all. So that transition, that job that was supposed to be me working in an office at the new company, transitioned into me working remote completely. And so visiting my daughter at other times, I was still working remote. The team that I was managing was a global team. And so it was just little things that I thought I had it really good because I was working remote, even before the pandemic. I thought, this is great. This is great. I still wasn't thinking of leaving or moving anywhere. I think the most that I thought when I started working remote is I saw those people that are like living out of their RVs or, just going across country or things like that. I thought that might be a possibility. And eventually I thought maybe going to Mexico, because I had seen some friends that were like moving to Mexico. And I was like, well, how do they do that? But what I had been telling myself is you have to have this first. You can't do that. You have to be rich. You can't be working. So I had all these narratives and stories that I had created that said why I couldn't do this or this or that, not knowing the whole time that I feel like God, the universe, was opening up this possibility that was going to be like, bam, here you go, girl. Okay.
Yeah, it's like removing the roadblocks, because what you said is something that I think a lot of people can resonate with, myself included, where you want something, but you create all of these false conditions in order to count yourself out. And you might not even be conscious of the fact that that's what you're doing, but it's only when you can take a step back and say, where did this come from? Is this fiction? Is this fact? And oftentimes it is fiction. Instead of projecting or planning for the worst possible outcome, start training your brain and retraining your mind to optimize towards the best possible outcome or better. That's when you're like, oh, sucking now. Yes. We cooking with gas.
Exactly. And so, as I started like doing some broad research about the possibility of, quote, taking my job on the road, because I'd known that the job was causing me some significant mental and physical concerns. I just felt like my well-being was not being put first. And therefore I was also putting my well-being not first. I was like, but the job, I'm making money. I got to do it like this. This is how we have to survive. But I started doing some research, but also each time I would go and visit my daughter, I think I had visited her in Spain maybe 3 times, I want to say. The 4th time is when I was like, can I move here? But each time I would go back home after visiting for a while and then coming back to the States, I felt the weight of the world coming back. I could feel the tension and all of the ailments just kind of creeping back up on my shoulders and all that. And I was like, I don't like this feeling, but I still didn't feel like I had any choice. That's just life. Because while I was visiting in Spain, I think all but one time, because I was there for a short period, I was working remote, I was still working. So, I was still working, the US hours for the company I was working with, but I just still felt the difference in the freedom of my mind that was leaving as I was landing back in the States. That's what really encouraged me just to start looking at other options, still not realizing that Spain was going to be an option until I started doing the research. And once the attorney actually explained to me what my options were, we're going head on with this. Yes. Okay.
You're like, count me into all of this.
Yes. And I have to say that was the longest and the fastest, shortest year of my life building up to the leave, because I came back in, I want to say May 2023, I came back to the States. And so I had a year basically to get, to get all the things together, to really kind of, financially get myself in the right place, get documents together, all these different things that you have to do. And there's certain time frames, like the documents can't be older than a certain, I forget, like 90 days and all that. So just getting everything together. I didn't have an apartment by that time. So I was actually pet sitting as a means of lodging for a full year leading up to it. So I didn't have any apartment at that time. I had already let that go. But it seemed like the longest year. And then also before I knew, it was like, okay, let's go. It was exciting. It was scary. It was the best thing I ever did. Well, one of the best things I ever did. No regrets. Lots of mistakes, no regrets.
We'll be right back.
Building a life overseas is about more than just choosing a country. It's about choosing yourself. That's why I created our newest guide, 7 Questions Every Black Woman Should Ask Herself Before Building a Life Overseas. Get your free copy through the link in this episode or visit blaxitglobal.com. Let's talk about some of the mistakes and maybe some of the emotions. So did you have any resistance from anybody, or even on the opposite side, right? Once you told your daughter, like, hey, look, I'm joining you. It was like, oh, come on, come with it.
By the time I decided to do it, I think my granddaughter was just over a year old. Yeah. My daughter was very excited. She never thought in a million years that her mom would be moving to Spain and, and possibly having the support to be a hands-on grandmother and not just a grandmother that I see my granddaughter, like every year or every 6 months, maybe. So she was excited. We did have some conversations because originally I wanted to move to Madrid. If anybody knows my story, that was my plan. Like, I'm coming to Madrid. I wanted to be like right in tourist zone, Madrid. I wanted to be in the middle.
What was it about Madrid that attracted you?
I'm an inner city. Like, I like to be right in the thick of things in the first place. And so just being there and the whole vibe, I didn't care if it was going to be loud and people walking around and getting on my nerves. I was like, yes, I was inviting all that. And in all honesty, a lot of people also know that Zaragoza, even though I was very appreciative for the opportunity, it was not on my, on my hot list. It was not, because I still had some effects of like the first time I visited in 2018. Zaragoza has grown by leaps and bounds since then, but it was not on my hot list initially. So, but then, I really did start doing some research and understanding the proximity to the bigger cities, the proximity to, my family here. And I realized that, get out of your head and embrace also the financial opportunity of freedom that comes with maybe not moving to the main city.
That part. I recently moved from Lisbon to Coimbra, and man, my wallet is like, thank you, Jesus.
It's like, good girl, yes.
Like, we can go on an extra vacation now.
Yes, there is a lot more freedom as far as financially being in a smaller but huge big city. People just don't know that Zaragoza is like the 5th largest city in Spain. It's such, I call it one of the best kept secrets of Spain that people really don't understand and realize how easy it is to get to Barcelona and Madrid and Valencia and all these other major cities around Spain and other parts and other like Portugal and France. One of the conversations that I did initially have with my daughter when I did kind of sit down and really look at numbers and see what that might look like, how much it might cost to live in Madrid versus the decision to move to Zaragoza. But one of the things that I did speak to my daughter about initially was, I don't want to live near you. So yeah, one of the conversations that I did have was, I don't want to live too close to you. And she was like, well, why not? What's the big deal? It's like, well, it's like, well, because she lives in the suburbs and the suburbs of Zaragoza, like more family focused. And even though, it's a beautiful, wonderful family neighborhood, I like to be, again, I'm city. So I knew I needed to be in the city central area. I wanted to have access and I wanted to be there and enjoy my family, but also I did not want to necessarily be like, call on my mom. She's always available to babysit 24 anytime you want. So I needed to have that distance because the truth is I'm a single person that's never been married. I like to go and do my own thing and not be committed to just being entertained by, my wonderful little grandbabies now.
I can respect that because you're at a different life stage than your daughter. Mm-hmm. And that is really important when people think about moving abroad. Sometimes they're so hyper focused on the actual logistics of moving from point A to point B in whatever city that might attract them. But you really have to also look at your life in your life cycle? Are you in a stage where you're a younger person with a family and you want to have that level of additional community support around you, like other kids for your kid to play with, or schools, or, things around that nature that kind of support that? I could not be in an area more suburban with families, which is why I took some of the cities that I was considering off of the equation, because as a single person, if everybody else is partnered, like, what am I always going to be, the odd woman out? Like, I need to be in a social setting where I don't stick out like a sore thumb. I can be at a bar or restaurant and somebody else will be with themselves as well.
Yes.
And there are activities that support that. So I think understanding where you are in your life journey and what goals and things fit into your lifestyle makes a huge difference.
Yes, absolutely. And, it was so funny because before I moved here and when I made that statement to her, she's like, well, I would never do that. It's like, well, we're not going to mess around and find out either. So, just to make sure, even though like right now I live in the city, in the central area, and like literally it may take 20 minutes to get to her, to get to my daughter, like for me to walk up to the tram, get on the tram for 10, 12 minutes and then get off. It takes maybe 20 minutes. So it's not like I'm like in another pueblo or another town, but also, it was just the respect factor. Don't get me wrong. I thoroughly enjoy hanging out with my daughter, with my family, with my grandkids. It's really a privilege and an honor. And my daughter and my son-in-law have been very, very respectful and understanding. When they know I'm in town, I have a set date that I actually keep my youngest granddaughter, because my daughter is learning Chinese, so she goes to the university. And then my oldest granddaughter, who's 4, I do her hair. She has like really, really thick hair. So that's like our bonding time. She comes over and spends the night every couple of weeks and all that. But there might be other times where they might just reach out and be like, can we have a date day? Do you mind? Yeah, it's really great. Now, I will say this. It's so funny because she knows that I'm going to be traveling next week. And we were talking. I told her about it months ago, and she was like, okay, no problem. And now that it's getting closer, she's like, so how long are you going to be gone? 2 weeks. Oh, really? 2 whole weeks? You can see the panic, the light panic kind of come over her just a little bit. They're great parents, but there's a little bit of like, oh, we won't have access to you.
Because I be in these streets. The international streets be a calling.
Yes, absolutely.
So it sounds like for so many reasons that travel and solo travel has transformed your life in so many ways. And you also mentioned, one of the ways that you were able to get yourself financially prepped for the move was through pet sitting, which for some people, this might be a whole new concept, just like thinking that remote work was only for people that were in their 20s and maybe early 30s, no kids, whatever, to like, oh, well, these things are accessible. So can you articulate what pet sitting is and how it's helped you?
So back in 2022, like I said, I've been working remote and I was living in Dallas for a while, and I was paying about $2,000 a month for my 1-bedroom, which was a very nice 1-bedroom. I was pleased that I can afford it. I didn't like it, but I was thankful that I can afford it to, be able to have a nice place working remote. But also I was like, I don't want to keep paying this expensive rent. And again, I had just been watching some random YouTube that came up on my algorithm about people that were just trekking around the country and all that stuff. And I was like, that seems interesting. So when I started doing my research back in 2022, that's when I kind of came across the whole world of Exodus Summit of Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow. And, Stephanie Perry's talking about, pet sitting. And I was like, really? So first of all, I was really upset because I had, at the time when I first found out about it, I had a dog and a cat, and I was doing some traveling. Like I had gone to Hawaii for, like a few months earlier. And then I found out about pet sitting and I was like, oh my God, I just spent like $600 for 1 week of pet care. And I could have had a pet sitter come and stay at my house for this annual fee of like, I don't know, it's anywhere from $150 to $200 and something dollars. I can't remember. That's when I first got the bug and got the information about this idea of pet sitting. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, but I was very interested. And I did my first pet sit for Thanksgiving. I was going back to Houston to visit family for Thanksgiving. And I did my first pet sit and I was like, I can really do this. If I did not have a clear option, I would have kept paying the crazy rent. You have to be one that can be organized and work on logistics in order to do that full time for a year and a half and not pay any rent. Yeah, you have to like really be organized with this. And I am. I just went full force, and I was very methodical about pet sitting and not paying rent. And I also have the wonderful support of my oldest daughter who lives in Houston and one of my best friends who also lives in Houston. So anytime I was in between pet sits, I had the option to go and stay with one of them. They each, had accommodations for me. So I was very lucky with that. I was also very careful as far as logistics to not have to utilize them and go and stay with them very often. I also had a monthly amount of like $500 a month for if I had to pay for lodging for an Airbnb or something like that. So I factored that in, although I think I was maybe 5 months in before I had to actually get an Airbnb.
It's amazing how much you can save just by eliminating that expense. For so many people, they see us living our lives and assume that you have to have so much money in order to leave. And it's like, if you can eliminate or reduce an expense, and your biggest expense is usually your accommodations wherever you're living, just doing that for 6 months, a year, longer, that can set you up really, really well for living abroad, because what you're paying in rent, you might be able to live a whole month or more somewhere else in the world.
Think about it. If I was paying $2,000 a month in rent and then I switched it up where now I just budgeted for $500 a month for lodging incidentals just in case, I was saving money. Now, a lot of people will ask me, were you putting all that money away? No, girl. Because one, I was working remote, so I was going out to eat more often, but there was some cost associated with it, but nothing compared to what I was paying. But was I stocking it all away? And did I have like $24,000 put away just from not paying rent? No, but I did save. Yeah. And I also just wanted to say regarding the pet sitting, it's not for everyone, for house sitting or pet sitting. It's not for everyone, because there are certain rules and etiquette that you have to follow, what the homeowner or pet owner might expect, and then also what your expectations are. So you have to have that outline, and that's something that either you can learn. I learned from Stephanie Perry. I now provide some insight and mentorship for people that are interested either in needing a pet sitter or wanting to pet sit. It's not for everyone. I have a dear, dear friend who was just so interested and so excited about me doing this. And then she said, do you think I could do it? Like, do I really have to take the dog out for a walk? And it's like, yes, girl. Okay. Yes. Do I really have to clean the kitty litter? Yes. Okay.
That might be a disqualifying question.
You have to actually like some pets? Yes. Okay. There is some things that you have to consider. And so that's why I'm very honest that this is not for everyone. There are different methods. Trusted House Sitters is a way that you can travel and you just pay an annual membership. I've done a pet sit in Morocco. I did 2 months of pet sitting in Mexico a couple of months before I moved to Spain. I found 3 different pet sits. So I bopped around. I was in Puerto Vallarta for 6 weeks. I was in Mexico City for 3 weeks. And then I went to San Miguel de Allende for a week. During that whole 2 months, I think maybe 1 week I did have to get an Airbnb because it was in between sits. But 2 months in Mexico, and all I had to do was pay for, lodging for 1 week. Girl,
a win is a win.
So yeah, it's not for everyone, but yes, it's well worth it to me, considering what one would have to pay in lodging. I was just in Portugal for the Blaxit Global Anniversary, and I secured a pet sit for that week that I was there. People was like, so you just go and just take care of people's pets for free? It's like, that's not how I look at it, but yes. I have free accommodations. I take care of their home and their pets, and I can go and still enjoy my time in this city. That's what I do, and I still do, even though I do have a home base here in Zaragoza. Whenever I do want to go anywhere, there's some traveling that I'm doing in a couple of months, that I'm going to France and things. And yeah, I'm already on the lookout for a pet sit.
That's fantastic. Now that you're in Zaragoza, one of the things that you've been doing is focusing on building communities and opening pathways for Black women who are planning a move or considering a move abroad. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that you've been helping women on their journeys?
One of the things that I did after being here for about a year, actually probably less than that of living here, I said I need to make sure that I have a welcoming community. So I did create Black in Zaragoza, it's a Facebook group. But there was another young lady that had come to Zaragoza. She was planning to move to Barcelona, decided to come to Zaragoza to meet up with me, just to, have a soft landing spot, to know some people. And she arrived 3 days before we had our first Black in Zaragoza meetup. And she just said, I felt so much love. She's like, I forgot about Barcelona. And she ended up getting an apartment here in Zaragoza. Her name
That is
Kathy.
Wonderful. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
I interviewed her back in October on my channel, but yeah, because she's retired, she had every intention of moving to Barcelona, but she just felt so much wonderful community in Zaragoza. She was like, I think I need to stay here. We're great friends now. And so that's one of the things that I'm very proud of. It's something that's growing. Anything that I do is like, it grows organically. I'm just myself, just talking a whole bunch and sharing a whole bunch. But one of the things that I've developed over the time is inviting women to come, whether I'm meeting them in Madrid, Zaragoza, and Barcelona, is creating curated experiences. So one is the Travel Buddy experience, where this is for solo female travelers who are maybe they want to travel, but they are tired of waiting for their boyfriend, their cousin, their mom, their sister, their aunt, someone to come with them. And so I meet them where they are. I meet them where they land in Spain and create a curated Travel Buddy concierge experience. It's different from, just, and no shade to like finding a travel buddy that wants to meet you somewhere in the world. That's great. But the difference is they may or may not be there. And also, are you going to be having their experience or your experience? So that's what the Travel Buddy experience that I offer, the services that I offer is about, because it's based on what your desires and wants are, not based on what some other person is telling you that you have to do while you're visiting. And also, I just had somebody reach out to me, the cultural immersion experience. So the Travel Buddy experience is for more of a one-on-one, because what I don't want is to have like maybe a group of 5 women showing up and being like, I need a travel buddy. I can't be a travel buddy and provide a concierge service to 5 different women because they all have 5 different needs. So I'm very aware of that. So the cultural immersion experience that I offer for someone that either wants to meet me in Madrid or they want to come to Zaragoza to get a real feel. Part of the experience, of course, is to see the historical marks and cathedrals and all of that. Don't get me wrong. But also to get a feel of the everyday outings, maybe feeling comfortable going to the grocery store, just to a local restaurant that doesn't necessarily have to be in the tourist zone, but also being open to those experiences also and helping them understand. Part of the cultural immersion experience that I do offer is one with the attorney Carlos, so that we work together in tandem to talk you through and help you get a vibe. And then I also offer the relocation advisor services, where whether you're getting ready to come here in 3 to 6 months, or if it's a year, I created where we have sessions where we're talking through to make sure that you're staying on track. Because what can happen, and I know this from experience too, is that we can be gung-ho, and then if we don't keep that momentum up, if we feel like we're not getting that support that we need from maybe our internal, our family, friends, work, or whatever, that we can straight talk ourselves out of making the move that might just bring the joy that we need and the calm.
I've been doing Blaxit Global for 6 years now, and one of the things that I've seen, I've helped a lot of people successfully move abroad, but then there's also sometimes, like you said, it's like that subconscious, those tapes are playing in the background, and sometimes they can get very loud and make you second guess yourself. And you fall into the trap of, well, why me? Am I deserving of better? Because we've been in situations where people have told you like, oh, you should just be happy with your job or where you live or whatever. Like nobody said you can't be grateful and still want more.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that, unfortunately society, whether it's external or internal, people that you're connected with or not connected with, that can really tell you and make you feel like you're not worthy and you don't deserve to desire something better. So yes, and that's the truth is I can be grateful and still want to achieve more. Yes. That's where, as far as the relocation advisor service really does kind of talk you through the steps and talk you through the things that you need to consider if you're moving by yourself or if you're moving with a significant other, with family. I speak to them about ways to make sure that the entire family is being heard and it's not just a one-sided dream. It's great to dream big for you and your family if you're coming with, family, but also make sure that everybody is involved in the conversation and not just being directed by one person. To get them excited and interested and wanting to learn more about this new opportunity, I definitely encourage that. Keep the dialogue open and making sure that you have not just a checklist, because the checklist is one thing, and the checklist is important because I definitely provide that information about things that you need to consider, like how you're going to ship your things over, what you actually need to bring versus some things that you want to bring and some things that you're like, girl, you need to sell that. And do you want to get storage and all these other things you need to consider, but also to do pulse checks and really listen to where you are right now and speaking and having a safe place to speak of and speak on your fears, on your concerns. That's what I do. My personality is one in the first place where I do like to help people. I know that what I do is of great value and I have a certain perspective on it. So I like to help people and give them some insight.
That's wonderful. And so how have you been adjusting to the language? You know, you come from Texas, which is also a border state. So did you have any exposure to Spanish that made it easier for your transition, or how have you been approaching the language?
I never learned one word besides possibly hola while I was living in Texas. I lived in Houston. I was what do they call it? A fish out of water. Yeah. It is important that you do make efforts and that you are putting in efforts to learn the language. But also the people here have been so gracious. The locals here have been so wonderfully gracious with me that they know that I'm trying, and I'll have that slight look of confusion. It has not been a hindrance for me to not speak well, you know what, let me rephrase that. Yes, it has. It would be so much better if I did speak much better, if my Spanish was a lot better. Yes. I was at the grocery store yesterday and I just getting some groceries, and the guy behind me, he was saying something he was being funny. I don't know what he was saying, but he was being funny. And I just had to look, and I was like, lo siento, no hablo español. And he's just said, he goes, you're American. I was like, yes, sí, yes. So soy de, Estados Unidos. So it would be easier. I feel like, I'm like, man, I want to see you again in the future and really have a full-blown conversation with you. But I'm not where I need to be yet. I plan to actually go ahead and start going to the language school in the fall. I wanted to do it in the spring semester, starting in January, but I knew I was going to be traveling too much. For the most part, it's been okay. The hardest part right now for me, as far as the language barrier, is my granddaughter. That has been the hardest part because the 4-year-old, her first language is Spanish. She does speak English because my daughter and I do speak English to her, and she speaks it very well. If she starts speaking to me in Spanish or in her Spanglish, I'll be like, say it to me in English. And now she's at the age where she's like, no, I want you to speak to me in Spanish. You should understand what I'm saying, Lolly. Okay.
Abuela, come on now.
Yes. I mean, my grandma name is Lolly. So yeah, that's what they call. Yeah, I'm Lolly. I remember before, I tell this story because before my granddaughters were even a twinkle in my daughter's eyes, I had not really thought much about a grandmother, but when she, got married, and I was like, when you do have a baby, my grandma name will be Yaya because my name is Yolanda. And my friends, all their kids always called me like Yo-Yo. So I was like, well, I would be Yaya. Well, my son-in-law's mother, she already has a grandchild. And so they called her Yaya. And I was just upset. It's like, no, I'm Yaya. My daughter's like, I'm not even pregnant. What? Why are you getting upset about a grandma name when I'm not even pregnant? I was just hurt. I was like, I want Yaya. My daughter's mother-in-law is absolutely just the sweetest woman that also lives here in Spain, in Zaragoza. I did research and I came up with the name Lolly. So yeah, that's what she calls me, but it really is becoming a challenge now, especially when she's excited about something. She's speaking in Spanish and I'm like, girl, I don't know what you're saying. And so I'll ask her and I'll say, how do you say that in Spanish? And usually she'll switch over, but now I say it in English. And she's like, no, you figure out what I'm trying to say. She doesn't say that, but that's the look that she gives.
She's like, okay, Lolly, keep up. Yeah. And that's cute, right? Because you guys can, she can also be a teacher, like you said, to you, which is beautiful that's how you have this connection, that you are growing a connection through language and that you're not being resistant to it. It just creates another bonding experience for you and your grandchild.
But I've gotten her over time. There's these little flashcards that's English and Spanish with I think there's over 500 cards, and you put it in this little electronic slot and it says it in English and in Spanish. So I got it for her so she can be better at English, but actually it's really great for me. Okay. They're like, let's play a game. She's like, I don't feel like it. It's like, I'll go sit in the corner and play by myself. It's like, oh, okay.
I love that. One of the things that I love about being at this age and learning a foreign language is that we are aided by technology that helps a lot, and that we can gamify it, which kind of lessens a little bit of the intimidation factor that, it raises the entertainment value. So it's like, okay, I'm learning, whether it's, Duolingo or like those flashcards that you're talking about, like you can tailor your learning to your style.
Yes.
And that can help you in leaps and bounds, which is very different. And I always say for Americans, in order to graduate high school, you have to have a second language. Most Americans take Spanish in school, yet most people, when they travel abroad, Americans, have no basic proficiency in the language.
Yeah.
And I go anywhere else in the world, 26 countries and counting, and it is
different languages.
Yeah, at minimum. At minimum, when people think like, oh, well, I'm too old to learn this or whatever, your brain is no different than anybody else's brain. It's just your willingness to try and stick to it. Whether it's watching TV, if that's how best you absorb information, do that. If you like reading, if you want to be one-on-one with someone, if you want to be in a group set, like do it online, whatever. At this point in life, it's the best time. You have age on your side. You have your ability to understand yourself and how best you learn. And then to have technology, oh, come on now.
It's so funny because, like you, it's like I have, my YouTube channel where I actually talk, I share my experiences, and I also talk to other Black women wherever they are in life or wherever they're moving to. But it's so great to talk to them, to just kind of make sure that other people know it doesn't matter how old you are. You can make drastic changes in your life, and it's amazing. The young lady that lives here, that moved here, that was supposed to move to Barcelona, she's been taking Spanish since August at the language school here. We went out for dinner and drinks because she just passed her first exam for A1. So now she's into A2. And she's like in her late 60s. And she's always like, man, I feel so silly because it's so hard for me to learn this. It's like, girl, you moved to another country by yourself in your 60s, and now you're taking Spanish. You are evident that you can make drastic changes, and stop saying that you're too old, because clearly you weren't, because you're here. Okay.
Yeah. And people undercut how much that learning another language, especially when you're more mature, is a protective factor, because you're introducing new things to your brain. It's like a muscle, like anything, right? So now you're building new neurons and synapses, and neuroplasticity is real. And as much as we talk about, lifestyle changes and moving abroad and how you can relax your shoulders and, your nervous system calms down and embrace ease, I also think that learning another language is a protective factor against diseases of the mind, whether it be Alzheimer's, dementia, etc. Because if you take the typical person in their late 60s, early 70s, society, especially in the United States, has already counted you out. It's already projected you to be in your sunset. When you go to other parts of the world, especially when I think about, Spain and, Portugal and other countries, where older people, they are keepers of wisdom. They're integrated into the society, right? The elders are respected. And so being able to realize that you're not in the sunset of your life, you still have the ability to learn and be integrated into the fabric of society and not be cast away and only have, a nursing home and wheelchair and a nurse's aide to look forward to, also helps. If you could give a message to your former self who was in Houston and maybe just had that glimpse of what if, now that you're on the other side, what would you tell her?
It's okay to dream bigger than what you see in front of you. It's okay to have goals bigger than what society has told you what your goals should be. It's okay to step out on your own and make moves even when you are your only cheerleader.
I love that. Anything else you want to add?
I find myself now getting a little emotional just because I think about what I did not think was possible just a few years ago. And, I tell people all the time, I wanted to like kind of move in stealth mode a little bit. And I was really kind of uncomfortable for a while posting content on social media because I still sometimes had that imposter syndrome and was like, who do you think you are talking about, how you don't move to Spain? You black girl from Texas. What are you doing? And I have to be loud even when I don't want to be loud. Because I feel like there's some people or some Black women that need to know this and they need to see me. They need to see us.
Amen to that. So Ulonda, where can people find you?
I am locating Cozy across all the platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I have a book page, Locating Cozy. I have Black in Zaragoza. And you can also just go to locatingcozy.com and you can actually connect with me on there. All my links are up there. And thank you so much. I'm just really excited to share and to, be the Black chick on the ground here in Spain and stuff, like yelling, like, come on. Okay.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Blaxit Global podcast. It has just been an absolute pleasure to get to know you over these years. I'm excited to see you continue to blossom in your life in Zaragoza, and I look forward to more adventures. Thank you for listening to the Blaxit Global Podcast. For more information on today's episode, be sure to visit our website at blaxitglobal.com. It's not only possible to live out your dreams unbothered and in full color, it is your birthright. This episode of the Blaxit Global Podcast is sponsored by Blaxit Global Passport. At some point, the question stops being, can I move abroad? And becomes, what's possible for my life? Passport is where Black women from around the world come together to explore new possibilities, navigate life abroad, and create lives that feel bigger than the ones they were told to settle for. Because the goal was never just to move. The goal is to expand what feels possible. Visit blaxitglobal.com and click community to begin your next chapter.